Welcome back, fellow Stoics. Ever walked into a room and felt like everyone was playing a role? Like you're surrounded by performers, each wearing a mask, hiding their true intentions? I know that feeling. People don't always say what they mean, but their actions, their subtle cues, they never lie. I remember being in a meeting, everyone smiling, nodding, acting agreeable. But beneath those polite gestures, hidden motives, the way their feet pointed, the slight hesitations in their speech, the unnatural pauses. Every detail was a clue. And once you learn to read these unspoken signals, you'll start seeing people for who they are. Get ready to decode the truth. Let's dive in. Number 1, the tell me more technique. Imagine having a superpower that lets you get inside people's heads, without them even realizing it. No mind games, no manipulation, just 3 simple words. Tell me more. Sounds too easy, right? But once you master this, you'll be amazed at how much people reveal. Their fears, insecurities, and hidden motives, all without you lifting a finger. I first stumbled upon this by accident. It started as a dumb argument with a friend about pineapple on pizza. I had my counterpoints ready, locked and loaded, but instead of firing back, something made me pause. I just smiled and said, "Tell me more." What happened next was unexpected. It stopped being about pizza. My friend started talking about childhood memories, family dinners, and even why he hated pineapple as a kid. In just a few minutes, I saw a completely different side of him, all because I let him talk. Here's the trick. When people feel heard, they drop their guard. They stop arguing and start revealing things they never planned to say. This works everywhere, in business meetings, friendships, and even when dealing with someone shady. I once used this technique in a negotiation. Instead of pushing my agenda, I kept repeating, "Tell me more." By the end, the other guy had unknowingly spilled his entire strategy, his weak points, and why he was desperate for a deal. He practically handed me the win, and all I did was listen. But this isn't just about winning arguments or extracting information. It's deeper than that. It's about connection. In a world where everyone talks but few truly listen, this technique forces you to do something rare. Step outside your ego and genuinely understand the other person. You're not trying to control the conversation. You're observing, staying calm, and letting the truth unfold. This reflects a key Stoic principle: empathy without attachment. You're not reacting emotionally or forcing an outcome. You're just allowing people the space to reveal who they are. So next time you find yourself in a debate, a negotiation, or even a casual conversation, try saying, "Tell me more." You'll be shocked at how much people open up, how easily they reveal their inner world, and most importantly, how much you learn about yourself in the process. Number 2, watch how they treat those with less power. If you want to know someone's true character, don't focus on how they treat you. Instead, watch how they treat people they consider beneath them. This one stings because it exposes an uncomfortable truth about human nature. Whether it's a waiter at a restaurant, a cashier at a grocery store, or a junior colleague at work, how someone interacts with those who hold less power speaks volumes. I learned this lesson the hard way. I once worked with a guy who on the surface was the nicest person, charming, funny, and always respectful in meetings. But one day, we went out for lunch and I saw a completely different side of him. The moment we sat down, he turned rude, barking orders at the waiter, snapping his fingers like he was royalty. The warmth was gone, the mask had slipped, and that's when I realized his kindness was never real. It was just a strategy. People reveal their true nature when they think no one important is watching. If someone is condescending to a waiter, they'll be condescending to anyone who can't fight back. If they dismiss a junior colleague, that arrogance will surface in other areas of life too. Here's the brutal truth. A person who is kind to you but rude to others, they're not kind, they're calculating. It's easy to be nice when there's something to gain. True character is revealed when there's nothing to lose. This silent test has helped me in friendships, business, and even dating. If someone treats the janitor with respect, thanks the bus driver, or shows kindness to a stranger, they're worth knowing. But if they're harsh, dismissive, or cruel for no reason, that's a red flag that should never be ignored. And here's where it gets deeper. How we treat others is a reflection of how we see ourselves. People who respect everyone, regardless of status, are often secure in themselves. They don't need to step on others to feel important. But those who are cruel, they're usually projecting their insecurities. Their arrogance is nothing more than a fragile ego trying to feel powerful. So if you want to see past the mask, don't watch how someone treats those they need to impress. Watch how they treat those with nothing to offer. That's where their real self is hiding. Number 3, their past holds the key to who they are today. People love to say, the past is behind us. But that's a lie. The past never really leaves. It shapes everything about a person's thoughts, behaviors, and even how they treat you in the present. Every victory, every trauma, every betrayal, it all leaves a mark. Whether someone realizes it or not, their past is the blueprint for how they move through life today. I once had a friend who was always on edge, defensive, quick to anger, and guarded in relationships. At first I thought maybe that's just their personality, but as I got to know them, I learned the truth. They had been betrayed by people they trusted. They had struggled with financial hardship. They had spent their childhood constantly proving themselves to be worthy of love and respect. Suddenly it all made sense. Their defensiveness wasn't random, it was a survival mechanism. This is how people operate. The past isn't something they've moved on from, it's something they're still reacting to. A person who grew up neglected might constantly seek attention as an adult. Someone who got burned in business might now be paranoid about trusting partners. A person who experienced heartbreak might sabotage relationships before they get too deep. But here's the key. Understanding someone's past doesn't mean excusing their behavior. It just helps you see them, without illusion, without judgment. I've seen this play out in relationships too. Ever been with someone who seemed fine at first, but then patterns started emerging? Maybe they became jealous, distant, or afraid of commitment. 9 times out of 10, their behavior wasn't about you. It was a reaction to old wounds they never healed from. And this is the brutal truth. Most people are trapped in cycles. They don't just live their lives, they repeat them, over and over again. That coworker who constantly seeks validation, they probably grew up feeling like they were never enough. That friend who sabotages every relationship, they might be reliving the pain of past rejection. That person who seems emotionally unavailable, maybe they learned long ago that closeness leads to pain. Their past is still controlling them, but here's where it gets deeper. Understanding someone's past gives you power, not over them, but over yourself. It helps you navigate relationships without getting caught up in unresolved issues. And sometimes, if you can gently help them see their patterns, you might be the reason they finally break free. Stoicism teaches us that self-awareness leads to self-mastery, and sometimes, helping others become self-aware is the greatest gift you can give. Most people judge others for their current actions, but if you want to understand someone, don't just look at the chapter they're living in now. Read the whole book. Because in the end, the past is never truly gone. It's always present. Number 4, sudden changes in tone signal lies or hesitation. One of the most subtle yet powerful clues that someone is lying or hiding something is a sudden change in their tone of voice. Most people don't realize it, but our voices often betray what's going on beneath the surface. When someone is speaking with confidence, their tone is steady, their pace is even, and their words flow naturally. But when hesitation or a lie is lurking behind their words, everything changes. It could be subtle or it could be dramatic, but there's almost always a shift, an unspoken red flag trying to get your attention. I once worked with a guy who always seemed like the smoothest talker. He knew exactly what to say and how to say it. But one day when we were discussing a project deadline, something was off. His usual upbeat and confident voice suddenly dropped, and his words came out slower, almost like he was stuttering. That shift in tone was a clear giveaway. He hadn't made any progress on the project, but he was trying to cover it up. It wasn't what he was saying, it was how he was saying it. So why does this happen? When people lie or feel uncomfortable with what they're saying, their body and mind go into conflict. Their brain is trying to maintain the lie, but their voice can't help but reflect the stress. It might show up as a higher pitch, a crack in their voice, or even an awkward pause that's just a bit too long. It's like their tone is out of sync with the words they're speaking. Think back to the last time you caught someone in a lie. What did their voice sound like? Did they suddenly speak quieter? Or maybe they started talking faster, or their tone became unnaturally cheerful. These are all signs that something's off. The shift in tone is often a subconscious signal that they're uncomfortable. Whether it's because they're hiding something or just unsure of themselves, their tone will always give them away. This isn't just about catching lies, it's also about noticing hesitation or uncertainty. I had a friend who would be enthusiastic about our plans, but the moment I suggested something she didn't want to do, her tone would change instantly. She'd go from excited to monotone like someone had flipped a switch. That was always my clue that she wasn't truly on board, even if her words said otherwise. This happens in business deals, casual conversations, and relationships. You've probably experienced it too. Someone's voice goes from upbeat to defensive or evasive. Even if their words don't seem to match the shift, that's when you need to pay attention, not to what they're saying, but to how they're saying it. A sudden drop in energy, a shift in pitch, or an awkward pause. These are all subconscious cues that someone might be holding back something important. And here's where the Stoic lesson kicks in. People often lie not just to deceive others, but to deceive themselves. When their tone shifts, it's not always because they're trying to manipulate you. It's because they're uncomfortable with the lie they're telling themselves. This discomfort seeps into their voice, revealing their internal struggle. They're telling one story with their words, but their voice tells a completely different one. Stoicism teaches us to observe without judgment, and this is where you can use that skill to your advantage. By paying attention to those subtle tone shifts, you get a clearer picture of someone's internal conflict. It's not just about reading others. It's about recognizing it in yourself too. Ever said something you didn't fully believe and noticed your voice falter? That's your tone mirroring your inner doubt. Stoicism teaches us the importance of aligning our thoughts, words, and actions. When they're out of sync, it often shows in ways you can't control. So next time you're in a conversation and you notice someone's tone shift, whether it's a sudden drop in energy, an awkward pause, or a pitching change, don't ignore it. Ask yourself, what are they holding back? What are they uncomfortable with? It might not be a full-on lie, but there's a good chance they're not telling you the whole truth. Their voice is their tell. And if you listen closely, it'll reveal all. Number 5. The most honest moments are when they think no one's watching. If you want to truly understand someone, observe them when they think no one is looking. These are the moments when they drop the mask they wear for society, the carefully crafted social persona they've created to fit in or get ahead. And what you see in those moments will tell you everything you need to know about their true nature. It's a controversial truth because most of us would like to believe that who we are in public is the same as who we are in private. But let's face it, the reality is we often behave very differently when we think no one's watching. I remember working with a manager who was always the epitome of professionalism when the boss was around. She'd make polite small talk, maintain a calm demeanor, and never raise her voice. But the moment the higher-ups left the office, it was like a switch flipped. She'd snap at the team, make condescending remarks, and treat people with absolute disrespect. It was shocking, but it was also a valuable lesson. The person someone is when they think they're not being watched is often their most authentic self. When people are in the spotlight, they're hyper-aware of how they're being perceived. They act in ways that they believe will earn approval or avoid conflict. But once they think they're out of view, the filters drop. It's in the small, seemingly insignificant moments that their true self is revealed. How do they react when they think no one is noticing? How do they treat people who can't offer them anything in return? How do they behave when they think they won't be held accountable? This applies to every aspect of life, from relationships to business to everyday encounters. Take romantic relationships, for example. At the start, both parties are usually on their best behavior, trying to impress one another. But if you want to know who someone is, observe them in the quiet moments, the ones where they're not actively trying to impress. How do they treat the waitress when you're out to dinner? What are they like when they're stressed or when they think you're not paying attention? Do they still show kindness, patience, and respect? Or do they let their guard down and reveal something less flattering? I've seen this play out in social settings too. You might have a friend who's the life of the party when everyone's watching, always cracking jokes, always the center of attention. But when they think no one is noticing, they might act aloof, selfish, or dismissive. Their true character doesn't come through in the big public moments. It comes through in the small, hidden ones. Here's where the Stoic perspective comes in. As a Stoic, you're trained to observe life objectively and without judgment. People often reveal their true nature when they think they're off stage, and it's in those moments that you can begin to understand them. Stoicism teaches us that virtue isn't about how we act when people are watching. It's about how we behave when no one is looking. The person who remains kind, patient, and respectful even when there's no audience is someone who lives in alignment with Stoic values. But the reality is that many people compartmentalize their public and private selves. They act one way in public to serve their image and another way in private, letting their less appealing traits come out. I had a colleague who was incredibly supportive and warm in group meetings. He'd always have something positive to say and would go out of his way to show support. But when we were alone, his demeanor completely shifted. He was short, dismissive, and uninterested in helping unless it directly benefited him. That's when I realized his public persona was a facade. The most honest moments aren't when someone's under the spotlight. They're when they think no one's watching. Whether they act with kindness or cruelty, it's in these unguarded moments that the truth comes out. And here's the deeper Stoic lesson. True character is who you are in the shadows, not in the spotlight. Stoicism teaches us that we must aim to live in alignment with our values at all times, regardless of who's watching. Whether the room is full or empty, a Stoic's actions are consistent because they come from within, not from the need for external validation. When you observe others in these unguarded moments, you not only see their truth, you also remind yourself of the importance of living authentically, even when no one else is around. So the next time you want to truly understand someone, don't focus on their grand gestures or public persona. Instead, pay attention to what they do when the spotlight is off. That's when you'll find their real character. And that's where the truth lives. Number 6. Emotional reactions reveal priorities. If you want to truly understand what matters to someone, watch their emotional reactions in different situations. Emotional responses are like an unfiltered window into a person's soul. They expose their values, priorities, and what they hold dear. This might be controversial because many of us like to think we're in control of our emotions and that we can hide what we care about. But the truth is, when someone reacts strongly, whether with anger, excitement, or even anxiety, it's a clear signal that what's happening is tied to something deeply important to them. Let me give you a personal example. I once worked with a colleague who was generally calm and composed. Nothing seemed to faze him. But one day during a routine meeting, someone suggested a small change to one of his projects. Suddenly he exploded. I was caught off guard. It wasn't a major change, and it certainly wasn't something that would trigger such a strong reaction. But here's the thing. His emotional outburst wasn't about the change itself. It was about the fact that the project was his baby. He had poured countless hours into it, and to him it wasn't just work, it was personal. That emotional outburst revealed something about him that he had never explicitly said before. That project mattered deeply to him. People don't always tell you what matters most with words, but their emotions, they can't hide those. Consider this: the boss who reacts angrily when you question their decision. That's not just about protecting authority. It's because their sense of self-worth is tied to always being right. Or the friend who gets overly defensive when you point out something minor that probably taps into deep insecurity or a value they hold dear. The excitement someone shows when they get praise for a job well done, that's because recognition is one of their top priorities, even if they wouldn't admit it. Here's the key. Strong emotional reactions, whether positive or negative, reveal someone's deepest priorities. They might act cool, detached, or indifferent most of the time, but when something they care about is threatened, challenged, or acknowledged, their emotions flare up. And this isn't just about negative reactions like anger or frustration, though those are often the most obvious. It's also about the things that bring them joy, make them light up, or get them animated. For instance, the excitement someone shows when they talk about their side hustle or hobby. That's a signal that it matters to them more than you might realize. In relationships, this principle is especially powerful. If you're dating someone and you notice they get disproportionately upset when plans fall through, that's a sign that spending time together is incredibly important to them. Or if they light up when you talk about a future trip or activity, it means creating shared experiences is a priority. Emotions are always tied to values. Paying attention to someone's emotional cues gives you a clear map of their priorities, without them ever having to spell it out. Consider this. Let's say you casually mention someone's been late a few times, and instead of a calm acknowledgement, they get flustered and defensive. That reaction isn't just about the lateness. It's because punctuality, or the appearance of being reliable, is something they care deeply about. Their emotional outburst reflects how important that aspect of their identity is to them. They don't want to be seen as unreliable, so they lash out to protect that self-image. Here's where the Stoic lesson comes in. Stoicism teaches us to observe human behavior with an objective eye, and emotions, they're one of the most telling aspects of behavior. When someone's emotions flare, it's usually because something they value is at stake. You can use this knowledge to better understand the people in your life and manage your interactions with them. If you know what triggers their emotions, you can approach sensitive topics more carefully, or use that insight to build stronger, more understanding relationships. But here's the deeper Stoic lesson. Your own emotions reveal your priorities too. When you find yourself reacting strongly to something, take a moment to reflect on why. Is it because it genuinely matters to you, or are you letting your ego get in the way? Are you getting angry because someone is questioning your integrity, or are you just upset because your reputation is being challenged? Stoicism teaches us that by understanding our emotional reactions, we can gain greater control over them. We can recognize when our emotions are tied to values that truly matter, and when they're just a reflection of our pride or insecurities. The ability to read people isn't magic. It's about paying attention to the subtle signals they give off. Their emotions, body language, and reactions speak volumes about their true intentions, values, and priorities. Stoicism gives you the edge by teaching you to observe without judgment. When you can see past the surface and pick up on the real unspoken truths, you gain clarity in every social interaction. But this skill isn't just about gaining an advantage, it's about understanding. The more you observe others, the more you'll learn about yourself, what triggers your emotions, what you truly value, and how you can live in alignment with your principles. By reading people honestly and wisely, you not only navigate life better, but also become a more thoughtful and self-aware person. That's the real power. Using this insight not for manipulation, but for wisdom and personal growth. So next time you find yourself in a conversation, take a step back. Listen to what people aren't saying, pay attention to their emotional reactions, and observe the moments when they think no one is watching. You'll uncover truths that go beyond words. Remember, Stoicism isn't just about what you know, it's about how you observe and grow from it. If you found value in today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an insight that could change the way you see the world. Keep learning, keep growing, and as always, stay stoic. See you in the next video.